There's a lot going on, baby. We're going to have a phenomenal guest on the show to talk Jets Senior Bowl and more. Plus, the latest with the Jets coaching staff rumors. Boy Green Daily starts right bleeping now.
I'm going to lose my gosh darn bananas. Boy Green Daily starts now. Zoinks!
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Is happening, everybody. I'm Paul Esden Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, and what a week we've had. Yesterday, in a surprise late show, we had ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler on the show talking about the latest with the coaching search and so much more. If you didn't check out that interview, check out that interview. It's in the live section, baby. And we're going to have another marvelous guest, and I'll just say right off the top, Lindsay Rhodes, former NFL Network host, reporter extraordinaire. She won't be joining us until 8 o'clock. So note that, people. We're going to be doing the show sort of in reverse. Normally the guest joins us at the beginning, and then we do some other stuff. We're going to do other stuff first, and then we're going to get to the guest. Again, that'll be coming up at 8 o'clock. The beautiful, the talented, the amazing Lindsay Rhodes, again, formerly of the NFL Network, now co-host of Sumer Sports, baby, the Sumer Sports Show. And she's terrific, so I can't wait to talk to her about Jets, Senior Bowl, and everything in between, baby. It's going to be a real treat. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you like the video. Hit subscribe as you head in the show. Liking, sharing, and subscribing is absolutely free, baby. But if you want to go the next step, you want to get it going, let's get some memberships flowing. Our number one Austrian Jet fan gifting a membership here on the program, baby. Ah, yes, very nice. Let's update that banner, baby. You love to friggin' see it. That is 238 on the gifted membership so far this cycle for our number one Austrian Jet fan. We'll read who these memberships went to in just a moment. I see Mother Effing Chew wants to get involved on the fun. I can't blame him. Boom shakalaka baby. Let's get all those updated. Again, our number one Austrian Jet fan with 238 gifted memberships so far this month. Beautiful. Let's go to our boy MFC, Mother Effing Chew. He's got 11 gifted memberships so far this month, baby. And these new members are as follows. We've got Zach Cartwright. You were gifted a membership by our boy MFC, and Ray Romano. Hey, all right, a little celebrity action happening here. He was gifted a membership from our number one Austrian Jet fan. And how about this? Let's do this right off the top, people. Those are two wonderful memberships. If by the end of the show we get 20 total memberships gifted, so that means just 18 more, we will release a brand new emoji. You people asked for it, and Snowball created it. It's time for the Darren Emoji. Yes, we have the emoji. It's locked in a cage, and we will unlock it for you guys with 18 more gifted memberships here on Boy Green Daily. You guys can buy Boy Green Coffee Club memberships if you're not already a member. Down in the YouTube description down below, join the Boy Green Coffee Club here. It's only $2.99. Or you guys can gift memberships. It's a little money sign while you're watching on YouTube. Click that. It's the final option. Gift channel memberships. You can gift as many as you'd like. Again, before the end of today's show, if we get 20 total gifted memberships, we already have 2, so that's only 18 more, we will release the Darren Emoji, our new general manager, and an honor to him. And I heard the people asking for it this week, and we worked behind the scenes to bang that out, baby. So Darren Emoji could be there as well. So looking forward to it, everybody. Keep that in mind as you're going through today's show. Now, there's a lot to get to. A lot to get to here on the show. First off, I'd like to get to the latest rumors happening with the Jets OC gig. Who the hell is going to be the next OC? Well, there's a lot of hot and heavy rumors that it's going to be Detroit Lions passing game coordinator, the 42-year-old Tanner Engstred, who has been with the Lions since, dates all the way back to 2020. He started as an offensive assistant, then rose up to quality control on the offensive side, then tight ends coach and pass game coordinator, and most recently, just passing game coordinator as he focused solely on that. Now, according to Josine Anderson, NFL insider extraordinaire, she was told that Tanner Engstred and the Jets have been in substantive talks about him becoming the next OC. Aaron Wilson, just a generic NFL insider, he says that Tanner Angstred is quote unquote firmly on the radar of Aaron Glenn to be his next OC, and many league sources express confidence that he's going to land the job. So he's the latest guy, and we got all the juicy deets yesterday from ESPN NFL insider Jeremy Fowler. Here's just a little bit of a taste of that interview. Again, I highly recommend checking it out. The full interview was 20 minutes and change. It's well worth your time, but here's a little scoop ski on the latest on the Jets coaching rumors. Let's go to Jeremy Fowler, who joined us on the show last night.
And, with Aaron Glenn, with his staff, certainly the name I hear often on the defensive side is Steve Wilks, veteran NFL coach, former interim head coach, 49ers defensive coordinator. If I had to call a favorite on the defensive side, that would probably be him. But, he's got to go through the process. I don't know if they've interviewed anybody yet on the defensive side that I've seen.
No.
I don't think so. So they're just getting started. I think on offense, back to Wilks, he brings that experience that you need, right? He's been around a long, seen a lot. He can help Aaron Glenn in a lot of ways, kind of in that assistant head coach role almost, along as being a defensive coordinator. But, on offense, I get the sense he's going to go more with the hot hand, whatever that is, with Nick Caley, with the Rams, tight ends coach. Tanner Eggstren, who's the pass game coordinator with the Lions, has come up a good amount. The thing with Caley is I think he's going to have options. He's in the mix for Tampa. It could be in the mix for some others. He does appear to be a hot name right now. So if you're ranking OC jobs, I don't know that the Jets are at the top. So that could make it tricky, So, we'll see how they prioritize it. But I tend to think they'll get somebody maybe a little more up and coming who can run the offense.
Which is sort of interesting if they end up going in that direction, because you would think the guy who's calling the play should probably want a veteran guy. But instead, it sounds like Aaron Glenn is going to go for a more up-and-coming guy, which, by the way, the two names that Jeremy Fowler just mentioned there, Nick Caley, the Rams tight ends coach and passing game coordinator, has never been an OC before. And Tanner Angstred has never been an OC at the NFL level before. So both of those would fit in the category, apparently, on the dating profile of one Aaron Glenn for his next OC. Now, I will tell you this, Tanner Angstred has been an offensive coordinator before, just not at the NFL level. He was the offensive coordinator in college at San Diego from 2011 to 2017. He also held other roles while also being the OC. Quarterbacks coach, assistant head coach, quarterbacks coach. So it kind of varied over that 2011 to 2017, but the same title he had all those years was as an offensive coordinator. He was also an offensive coordinator and running backs coach in the defunct XFL, now UFL, back in 2020 for the DC Defenders. So he's been an offensive coordinator in totality for a combination of 8-9 seasons at other levels, but never at the NFL level. So there is some level of experience there for Tanner Angstred if they decide to go potentially in that direction. But I'm curious to the idea of putting that in and making it happen as well. All right, real quick. Look, our number one Australian Jet fan with 10 gifted memberships here on the channel, baby. Oh, yes.
Here's what I do know. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Let's read those 10 new members to the Boy Green Coffee Club right bleeping now, baby. Tony Lee, Braden NCL, Anthony, KB, Florida Jet fan, Kevin Zwicker, Mag KNYG, Peter S., Mr. K, and John Zell. You guys are all now members of Boy Green Coffee Club. We are 8 members away, people. We just need 8 more memberships, and we will release the Darren Emoji. So come on, people. Let's go. Let's see it. I have it ready to go. I just want to drop it right freaking out, but I can't. We have to do it with 8 more memberships. I'm a man of my word, people. So make sure, let's get those memberships, people. It's only $2.99 a pop. Let's release the Darren Emoji. The people have been asking for it. It's time to release it to the hounds. Let's see if we could do that, baby. That would be absolutely, like I said, spectacular. So let's see if we can make it happen. Darren Emoji. It is, like I said, it's ready to go. I'm looking at it right now, and it looks spectacular, baby. Absolutely spectacular. So I have it on the screen. It's ready to go at just a moment's notice. By the way, let me go to Ricky here while we're also waiting for any more memberships to come in. I got Ricky New York Live here. It says, BG, if we hire Tanner Angstred, all the content creators are going to have to give Connor Long the credit. He called that a month ago. Amen. I've got no problems giving Connor Long credit. I enjoyed joining his show earlier this week, NY Flight Jets Talk. I highly recommend everyone go subscribe to his channel. He's an up-and-coming superstar. I love Connor. So yeah, if we get Tanner Angstrom, it'd be interesting because he was part of some early speculation. We said, oh, if Aaron Glenn gets hired, who could be the OC? We kind of talked about that pretty openly. And Tanner Angstrom was a name that came up, but like I said, the experience is somewhat limited, certainly at the NFL level. But he's an interesting guy. He's obviously an understudy of Ben Johnson. That's sort of exciting. He got to see how the ship operates for multiple years, which is an idea. So absolutely, I'll give Kyle Long all the credit. I got no issues with that whatsoever. Johnny Boy brings up Mark Brunell as another option, apparently, that's been heavily considered. Now, he doesn't have offensive coordinator experience, but obviously he was a quarterback in the league for a long time. And for all you kiddos that don't remember Mark Brunell, hit a Google on that one. Mark Brunell was a really good quarterback in the league. So obviously, quarterbacks' minds work differently, very much so. So, yeah, man. So we got Nick Cayley, Tanner Engstred, Mark Brunell. There's a lot of options going on right now. See, James, you want the emoji? Let's go. If you want the emoji, I need 8 more memberships, man. James, I know you were a big advocate earlier this week. I have it ready. Snowball made it. I just need to release it. Let's get 8 more memberships, baby, and we will release emoji. It is made. It's beautiful. It's absolutely wonderful. And C, why is Ben Johnson not taking him? I don't know. Why didn't Ben Johnson take Lance Newmark as a part of his change? I know the Bears had Ryan Poles, but he could have brought him along with him. I don't know. You can't bring along everybody. That'd probably be the simplest way to put it. I don't think just because he didn't bring along Tanner that all of a sudden Tanner's bad. There's only so many people you can bring. Johnny Boy. Doug Peterson is OC? Interesting. Possible Super Bowl winner. He's an offensive guy. That would make a lot of sense. Also another former quarterback. The Mike McCarthy OC dreams are dead, everybody, because he's not going to be coaching football this year. He's going to be stepping away. So I know there's a few out there that were hoping for Mike McCarthy and an Aaron Rodgers reunion. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. He pulled himself out of the Saints race. I guess there were whispers that he wasn't going to get the Saints job, so he just pulled himself out, I guess, which is not a bad play. You know what? If you know a girl's going to dump you, you dump her first. There you go. That's the only way to do it. So I respect it. But yeah, it sounds like he's just going to step away and focus on the 2026 cycle as a head coach, and I can't blame him. So can't blame him at all. Again, let's get those likes up, baby. We got over 200 people in the room. Like the video, hit subscribe. Again, we're going to be having Lindsay Rhodes, formerly of the NFL Network, at 8 o'clock live from Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl, baby. So make sure you guys get ready for that. Again, that'll be coming up with Lindsay. We have a bit of a reverse show where we're doing all our extracurricular activity here at the beginning of the program. And then, like I said, we'll be getting to Lindsay at 8 o'clock to wrap up the show. She'll take us all the way home, which I'm looking forward to. Lindsay down there live from the Senior Bowl, baby. Again, we're only 8 memberships away right now from releasing the Darren Emoji, a brand new emoji on the channel that can be used exclusively by Boy Green Coffee Club members. Shout out to our Austrian Jet fan and MFC. Austrian is gifted 11 memberships. MFC is gifted a membership. We just need 8 more from you, the people, to release this thing. So come on, people. Let's all rally together and release this emoji, a.k.a. this Darren Emoji. All right, let me keep answering questions while we're waiting for those final memberships to come through. Who's going to be the person to push it over the top? That's what I want to know. Who's going to be that lucky individual that gets all the credit? Shout out to Brooklyn Born here for getting a Boy Green Coffee Club membership. It's possible I gave it to you because I gave away 5 yesterday, but yeah, we had a lot of people gifting memberships, so just enjoy. Shout out to our boy Terrence Hill, baby, one of the best in his business. Good Morning Coffee Club. Also, we continue to talk behind the scenes. I'll be talking to Terrence Hill soon about, and others about our big Boy Green, enjoy festivity action that we'll be setting up a game for this year to all hang out at. Look at that. MFC has stepped up to the plate once again with another Boy Green Coffee Club membership. That one just went to Mr. Magoo. We are now 7 members away, baby. And there you go. James says he doesn't know how to gift a membership, which is fine. Some people have those issues. So let's get a YouTube super chat here on the show. Real quick before we do that, let me just update MFC's total here. He's got 12 gifted memberships so far this month. I appreciate it. We got a super chat here from James. So let's highlight that properly with a wow from my daughter.
Wow.
Okay, he says, I don't know how to get gift memberships, but this is for the Emoji with $4.99. We appreciate that. So that's another membership and a half, which we appreciate, James. It does also give you some raffle tickets to our contest, so I'll make sure that I put these down for you properly here. I believe these are your first of the month. But let me double check here. Yes, it is. Okay, beautiful here. So let me put you down here. All right, beautiful. You have one raffle ticket to our contest. Okay, beautiful. Love it. So now we're just 6 memberships away. So shout out to you, James. Thank you for your contributions, my friend. Wow. Again, we're 6 memberships away from releasing the emoji. Let's see. NC Green, did we hear if Muji or Glenn will be at the Senior Bowl this week? The early indication is neither will be at the Senior Bowl. And I know some people will be incredibly disappointed by that, NC, but because of the timing and when they're hired, I'm not surprised. They got to put their coaching staff together. Aaron Glenn and Muji have to be a part of those interviews. So they both seem to indicate that they wanted to go, but because of the timing of the coaching staff and the hotly competitive nature of filling these spots, I doubt that either are going to be able to make it. Maybe they could private jet some part of the week later, but at this point it looks unlikely. MFC says, thanks, guys. Now I have to go get up and make a Taylor ham and egg and cheese sandwich. There you go. Well, MFC, again, you did your part. Again, we're just 6 members away on the Boy Green Coffee Club to get it to see it. Jets Worldwide, who makes all these, wide, make sure you subscribe to their YouTube channel. I hope people like the emoji. Again, Jets Worldwide, a.k.a. Snowball. He's the one that made this emoji, and I am ready to release it. But again, we just need 6 more members to be able to do that. Or if you're looking for the super chat equivalent, I guess, that'd be $18. $3 a membership, so that'd be $18 more. If someone wants a super chat, that through as well. That would also work. So either 6 more memberships or $18 in super chats. That would also be another way to do it. If you want to get creative, feel free to do so. Jared B has been talking about Angstred long ago. Yeah, he deserves credit too. Sure, everyone. Let's go to Zach Quinn here. I'm sure they're going to go with a hot hand this cycle, but what's everyone's thoughts on Frank Reich? Obviously, I like Frank, former Jets quarterback. You know, it sounds like, for those who don't know his story, he is a very religious man. He was into the pastoralship before he got into football, or while he was in football, technically. But like he thought his path was going to be in that religious direction as opposed to the football field. And so I don't know if he's ready to come back. Now, maybe he would be cool in the smaller role because obviously he got the head coaching opportunity with the Panthers, and that went awful. And obviously had the chance with the Colts. But maybe as an OC, he'd be willing. It'd be less on his plate. Again, we learn all the time that some coaches are just not built to be a head coach, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think Frank might have found that out the hard way. So Frank would be an exciting. I loved that OC possibility a couple years ago, and if he'd be open to it, I'd be open to having that conversation for sure. Remember what he did for those that Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl team in 2017. That'd be great. June, the GM's in the chat. We shout out June. How can we not hire an experienced OC when that is the main area of need in our team? It sounds like the plan. And again, like Tommy Boy, I've got a plan. Yikes. Well, the plan is that you have this up and coming hot shot, whoever it is, and then you surround them with a lot of veterans. For instance, that was sort of the Jets' plan when Robert Saleh first came in. You're going to have guys like Mike LaFleur and these young cats, but then you're going to have Greg Napper to oversee the operation, be the veteran glue to the room. And unfortunately, tragically, we lost him on a cycling accident. He was struck by a distracted driver. And so we never saw that through again. Our loves continues to send out to the Napper family for that senseless tragedy. And we go to this, the plan once again would be young cat, relatively speaking. Tanner's 42, but like young in experience in terms of OC, and then have like a Todd Haley in the room, apparently, is some of the whispers going around. Guys like that have been around the block, and then to support him in that way. So whether or not that's going to work, I guess we're all going to find out together, I guess. But that's it as well. We got our boy Hep here on the show. He says Justin Fields' name keeps popping up. Any thoughts? Again, I I question whether he can throw the ball consistently, which is a prerequisite normally to playing the quarterback position. But if Aaron Rodgers is off the table, then everything is on the table for the Jets. And he's a former Garrett Wilson teammate. I'm sure Garrett would be about that. And then you throw him in the room with Tyrod and let him battle it out, duke it out. Justin will probably sign a 1-year deal. I think his Spock Track calculated market value is somewhere in the ballpark of like the Sam Darnold deal, a 1-year deal for $10 million with incentives. So again, if we don't bring Rodgers back, then shoot, Justin Fields is on the table, and every other available free agent quarterback who would have a shot there would be it as well. For sure. Again, guys, we're only 6 memberships away from releasing Darren Emoji, the next emoji here on the channel. We'll see if we could get there by the end of the show, or hell, even before Lindsay arrives, which again, Lindsay Rhodes, former NFL Network host and reporter, will be joining us at 8 o'clock live from Mobile, Alabama. We got a lot of questions for her, Jets related, Senior Bowl related, a little bit of everything in between. So I'm very much looking forward to that coming up here on the show. So we'll get that going. So let's see. And yeah, back to the Terrence thing. I got lost there for a second. That we're trying to get together all of our Boy Green Coffee Club members that have a variety of skills. Like Chef Kevin Gilbert. Yep, his is pretty obvious. He's a chef. And I'm going to be working with him behind the scenes to see if we can, maybe he can cater our game that we pick. Again, I'm thinking Jets Cowboys, but we'll see. One of the games is going to get London, so one will be wiped off the board. But essentially, where all of us Boy Green Coffee Club members can all show up to a game and kind of take over a Jets game, hang out together, sit together, tailgate together, and all that jazz. And like I said, all the particular skills of different people. Uncle Tio, who we haven't had on the show in a while, but he's told me before that he'd be interested in maybe DJing. We've heard Chef Kevin Gilbert, obviously, with maybe cooking. Hep has offered to help. I've had other people say, hey, I would help with setup or things of that nature with him. Again, once we get a little bit closer, we got a lot of craziness with the Jets right now. Once we hit a dead period, maybe, in a couple of weeks, before the combine, I'll put out a Google Doc where people can submit their services to say, hey, Paul, if we did a tailgate, I could help with this, or in any way, anything that you think you could help with. Because again, I wanted to make this as epic of a tailgate and experience as possible for all of you guys. So if you have ideas or things we could be doing, like gizmos, games, and gadgets in the parking lot, or other parts of the experience that you guys would like, whether it's like on-field access or whatever, we can look into all that, which would be wonderful. So yeah, we're working behind the scenes, people. We'll hopefully have updates. The schedule isn't released until May, but I'm looking forward to that. NC says Snowball is the Da Vinci of Boy Green Daily. That is true. That's true. Like I said, I really want to release it. So again, we're 6 members away. Let's go to Caden here. Steve Wilkes for DC. Yeah, that's what Jeremy Fowler told me last night, that he is the favorite for the job. Connor Hughes was even more blunt than that. The moment that Aaron Glenn was announced as the head coach and they did a breaking news show on SNY, Connor Hughes straight up said Steve Wilkes is expected to be the DC. Now, as Jeremy sort of talked about in that clip earlier, the uncomfortable truth is there is a Rooney rule for the coordinator positions. And even if the Jets say, oh, we want to hire this guy, that means you have to go through some whack interviews that aren't real. And, that defeats the whole process to get to who you want to hire. But, it's an unfortunate reality of some of the things that happen here. So we'll see if he ends up being the guy. Yeah. Dylan Gabriel, I'm hearing a lot of good things about him down there at the Senior Bowl. So we could put that in. So I'll put that down on my list, Dylan Gabriel, for Lindsay Rhodes here, who will be joining us here in just a few minutes. I'll put Dylan Gabriel down. I heard he was throwing the pigskin around down there in Mobile. So I'll make sure I ask about that. If you guys have any questions for her, you guys can also super chat those in and send those in so I don't miss them when Lindsay joins us live here in about 5 minutes. Let me see. Jalen Milroe is interesting. It sounds like he needs some time to develop, though, which could be perfect with like an Aaron Rodgers or something potentially. Alan says, so uninterested in any quarterback in this class, rather get our quarterback of the future in 2026, which could happen. Hey, the Jets have plenty of needs they need to fill. Right tackle, corner, interior defensive line. I mean, there's a million things that they need to fill. Safety. They're losing some of their top corners. They're going to need some depth there. So, yeah, there's a lot of things the Jets are going to be missing. Let's go to some questions here. Again, let's see. We got 5 minutes left, baby. Can we get to the Emoji? We just need 6 more memberships, baby, to get there. Can we get there? If anybody has it in your soul, you're watching the show right now, you're not a Boy Green Coffee Club member, join. That is down in the YouTube description down below. Join the Boy Green Coffee Club here. It's only $2.99. If you're watching on YouTube, you can hit the money sign, and the final option is gift channel memberships. You can gift as many as you'd like. Again, we're only 6 away from releasing the next emoji here on the channel, which is Darren Emoji, which is what the people were asking for. So, people, we're 6 away, baby. Can we get there? Come on now. We only got 4 minutes now before Lindsay Rhodes joins us. I'd like to get to that if we can. Johnny Boy here. Question for BG. Which player do you believe Aaron Glenn brings back or cuts? I think, again, there's a few obvious ones. I think Alan Lazard is going to get cut. I think even still, we had a debate about this on Boy Green Meets Woody yesterday. I'd get rid of Jeremy Ruckert. He stinks. Unfortunately, I like the guy, but this isn't about the guy. It's about roster construction. Michael Clemens is gone. He just does too many silly things. I just move on and bring somebody else in, and I would go there too. And look at this, baby. Wait a second. We got a couple action here. 1 second here. Jets Worldwide gifting a membership. We're only 5 away, baby. If someone could drop a 5-pack, we'll drop a Darren Emoji. Throw this up here on the channel. Jets Worldwide with that gifted membership that went to Thomas Roseman. We are now 5 members away, baby, and Jets Worldwide. Let me see if we have you down here. I'll make sure I put you down for a ticket if we didn't have you down already. So let's put that here on the channel. Thank you very much. Jets Worldwide. Beautiful. All right, let's go back to the chat here. All right, we have a couple of questions, super chat questions coming in. Again, we'll get to these with Lindsay as well coming up. So thank you for these super chats. As soon as she comes on the show, we will ask those coming in. So thank you very much. Again, we're only a few minutes away from Lindsay Rhodes, former NFL Network host, reporter extraordinaire, Emmy Award winner. We'll get into all that jazz here on the channel. She is also the host of Sumer Sports. We'll be getting to that on the channel. So send those in, baby. Okay, so I'll save these super chats, but I appreciate both of them. I'll put them on my list here so you guys get your proper raffle tickets, for these. Number 1 Austrian Jet fan, and Ricky, I see yours coming in here. Thank you very much. All right, and I will do this, baby. Screw it, I'll gift the Boy Green Coffee Club memberships here that we're missing. Let's see, what are we missing here? What are we missing here? 1 second. I'll try to actually, I have a YouTube problem. I can't do that right now. So, okay. Hopefully someone else steps up here again. We're only 5 members away, baby, from gifting the Darren Emoji. Unfortunately, my YouTube is blocked from me doing it right now. So hopefully someone else can step up to the plate. I was just going to do it for you guys, but unfortunately we're having some issues there. So I apologize, but feel free to send those in. 5 away. Let's get Darren Emoji out there, baby. Let's see if we can do it. Let's also get Ricky New York. We'll get you in here as well. Beautiful. All right. Let's see. And there it is. NC Green, baby. He did it. NC Green. Let's freaking go. Booyah. It's official. The Darren Emoji has been released. Let's throw it up here on the board. Let's also reveal the 5 new members to the Boy Green Coffee Club. We appreciate you, NC. Simple Eats, Timothy Kelly, E the Key, That's No Ghost, Jets fan since birth. The emoji is now available for all of you guys. If you just hit the refresh button on YouTube as you're watching here, here's the beautiful creation from Snowball. And thank you again, NC Green. Will also be counting your 5 raffle tickets as well here on the show. Booyah! Darren Emoji. There he is. Our Jets general manager. Salute. The emoji is available for all of you. Shout out to NC Green, baby. There it is. Our emoji is now available to go. Let's freaking go. Our next general manager, baby. Nice. Beautiful. And like I said, NC Green, I'll put this on our list here for you. Wonderful job. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. You have 5 raffle tickets to our giveaway, which, by the way, what we're giving away, we'll give that up real quick, explain that to you guys here on the channel. Thank you, NC Green, again. on Saturday morning. So you guys only have a couple days left, obviously. We'll be gifting this away. Let's throw it up on the big board. We got an Aaron Rodgers Nike Atmosphere jersey, Heather Gray color, $50 Boy Green Merch Shop gift card, and a custom laser engraving package with Jets logos and Boy Green logos merged together, baby. So yes, frickin' sir, that will be going to one lucky person that has been submitting raffle tickets. Again, the more raffle tickets you have, the better shot you have. But every raffle ticket that counts is either a Boy Green Coffee Club membership, or which is $2.99 a pop, or if you've sent in the requisite super chats available, those also eventually count. So again, $2.99 per raffle ticket being sent in. Again, shout out to Jets Worldwide, all one word. Check out their YouTube channel where they have the Wheel of Misfortune, and during the season, the Jets match game, and so much others. Snowball is specifically assigned the emoji creation on this channel, and he makes them all here, including the emoji. And maybe we'll be doing a Super Bowl contest. Keep an eye out for that on how you guys can unlock another emoji here on the channel. We'll talk about that. But emoji was a special one that we just had to make sure that we worked our way in there. Again, also make sure you guys send in your questions for Lindsay Rhodes. I'll be getting to those questions as well. I'll make sure I put them down on my sheet here for both Ricky and Austrian. Both had super chats. I'll make sure I get to both of those here on the channel for questions. Okay, beautiful. Okay, she should be joining us in just any minute now, so we'll keep you guys posted on that when that comes through. So shout out to Austrian Jet Fan and Ricky, and anyone else that would like to send in super chat questions or anything of that nature. I will try to put them on my list here and make sure that I get to those appropriately. All right, 1 second here. Why don't we do this? I'm going to play a quick Hep song, and we'll see if we have Lindsay coming back after this. So hang on tight, everybody. We got more coming up right here on Boy Green Daily. Here we go.
Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. Talking just football, man. Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily, Boy Green Daily. The New York Jets Football Club. Wow. Offense, defense, special teams. Watch the Super Bowl season with Boy Green. Jets. Jets.
There you go, baby. The beautiful pipes of Hep, a loyal member to the Boy Green Coffee Club. But without further ado, we've got a special guest joining us here on the show, here this morning. It's January 29th. It's a Wednesday. This is a former host, a former reporter on the NFL Network, not one, not two, a three-time Emmy Award winner, the beautiful, the talented, the amazing, the remarkable, the undeniable. There's no question about it. And host of Sumer Sports, with all kinds of wonderful co-hosts. Thomas Dimitrioff, longtime former NFL general manager of the Atlanta Falcons. Sam Brookhouse, baby. But the star of this show is Lindsay Gosh Darn Rhodes, baby, and she joins us right now. Lindsay from Mobile, Alabama, the Senior Bowl. What's up, Lindsay?
What a introduction. Hi.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much for taking the time to jump on the show live here. Beautiful.
I hopped on and I saw the singing and I was like, what? Where am I? What's happening? What kind of show is this?
You're asking the right questions, Lindsay. There's no question about it. You're asking the right questions immediately as you come on here. Lindsay, what Senior Bowl is this for you?
So I haven't been to Mobile for Senior Bowl in so many years that funny story. I think it might be Senior Bowl 3 or 4 for me, but I haven't been since like 2010. And I brought that up the other day and felt very old.
Did you miss it?
Very much. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to the NFL offseason, massively into draft, roster building, all of that kind of stuff. I love free agency. I love the whole flow of the offseason. Like this part of it is kind of my jam. I mean, obviously the season, we all love the actual season too, but I really like the offseason almost as much as I enjoy the season, just for totally different reasons. So Senior Bowl is I think one of my favorite weeks on the calendar. Yeah. And I've been really bummed that for so many years I was in studio talking about the Senior Bowl. but unable to actually travel here myself. And so I'm really happy to get back here. It's a fun week for people who haven't been. It's like a little bit conference-y feeling because during the week, scouts, coaches, general managers, but then also media from all of the different teams, the people that you see like their faces in the Twitter box, and you're like, oh, that's that guy and that guy, and people who you've done podcasts with, you finally get a chance to kind of see in person a little bit. So it has a little bit of a reunion feel in a way that's different than the Super Bowl, because the Super Bowl is so big. And so this is much smaller, and it kind of feels like those are the only people that are here doing this. And so you get a chance to catch up with everybody and talk some football in a nerdy way that I appreciate.
Well, Lindsay, I've not been able to check it off the bucket list yet, but hopefully I get to go to the Senior Bowl soon. But the thing that I hear some wild stories down there at the Senior Bowl. That you talk about the practices and the game and all the football stuff, which all of us love. But I also hear late at night the Mobile nightlife, and everyone's rubbing elbows, everyone's getting drinking going, everyone's saying all kinds of things, and rumor mill and gossip town. I hear it gets pretty wild down there.
Yeah, Senior Bowl Combine. Both kind of, I think, fall into that particular bucket. Yeah. So by the way, the fact that I am here at 7:00 in the morning after one of said nights, which is not as crazy for me as you're describing, by the way. But you do want to stay out and see all the people that you haven't seen for a while. You're welcome that I am here.
Yeah, I was just about to say thank you because, there's a lot of behind the scenes that happens before you join a show like this or anywhere. And when our mutual friend is setting up interviews for you, he offered me times. And I said, oh, okay, well, I do have a morning show. And he was like, well, that's going to be too late. Practice are going to be going on. I'm like, no, I'm live every day at 7:30 in the morning. He's like, 7:30? He's like, well, that could work. And I'm like, all right, well, you're the one to break that to Lindsay, not me. And I said, okay, God bless. And here you are. So, Lindsay, you're a real trooper.
I'm happy to be here.
So, Lindsay, like I said, you've got a sterling resume. I mean, everyone knows who the hell you are. You're Lindsay gosh darn Rhodes, for God's sakes. And but you've taken your talents to Sumer Sports, which is lesser known of a name than Lindsay Rhodes. So, Lindsay Rhodes, you choose Sumer Sports. Why did you? And now you host the Sumer Sports Show with all these wonderful Thomas Dimitrioff, Sam Bruckhouse. I mean, you got a wonderful cast of characters there. But why Sumer Sports for you?
Sumer for me is such a I am loving my time with them. I think it's such a cool fit for me in particular, because I think that where we're going with NFL content, everything, there's so much NFL content out there, right? And I'm somebody that always approached any kind of my TV career, which started with journalism roots, as kind of how can I figure out answers that we don't already have? What are the questions that remain unanswered? How can we move the story forward? How do we find answers that we might not even be looking for yet? Like find the stuff that isn't, being talked about ad nauseum. And so after a number of years doing television in a way that is meant to appeal more broadly to a lot of people, I love the fact that I'm getting a chance to kind of dive into some of those more specific questions and try and find answers to the problems. And Sumer has such a great data science team. We've got so many advanced numbers to look at, and then tracking data, some of the stuff that can really tell the story of what's happening on the field, and so many smart mathematicians, of which I like this whole side of my brain.
That's above my pay grade, Lindsay, but different strokes.
I can't do simple math. So I surround myself with very smart people who can solve these problems and say, like, we're coming up with these new metrics. And then I just like diving into that world and, seeing if there are new and fresh ways that we should be looking at things and looking for answers to the test, I guess.
Wow. Okay. It sounds like Lindsay Rhodes is driven by this new Sumer Sports experience, relatively new for you. That it's, it's revving your engine. And hey, you're revving your engines. Hell, it's revving my engine just hearing about all this Sumer Sports action, which is absolutely terrific. We have Senior Bowl week going on. Again, you're down there live in Mobile, Alabama for all of the action. And people are sending in questions here. I got questions myself, but shoot, I'm a man of the people, for God's sake. So let's throw some of these up here. We've got some international flavor here. Our number one Austrian Jets fan coming over from Austria with a question here. And every time we get a question here on the channel, we hear from my daughter, Zariah Luna.
Wow.
There she is, Zariah Luna, my beautiful daughter. She just turned 3 over the weekend, so a shout out to my beautiful daughter, Zariah Luna. All right, so let's
pretty name.
Zariah Luna, yes, ma'am. It's a hyphen name. My fiance Tatiana came up with it, and I said, okay, sounds good to me. And here we are. Our number one Austrian Jet fan here says, which draft prospect stock rose significantly? Now, this may be a little too early in the week to have this, but are there draft prospects on your mind that you're looking at? Because obviously the Senior Bowl is a great opportunity. All the teams down there, that stocks can rise. We've seen that in the past of players just lighting it up in the one-on-ones. That's the sexy social media thing. People love seeing the wide receiver, cornerbacks, offensive line, pass rush action. Who are you keeping an eye out for?
There are a few people who had particularly good, I think, day ones. Josiah Stewart, who is an edge rusher from Michigan, was a guy that really caught the eye of a lot of the people that I work with at Sumer. That was a consensus pick. Ariante Ursay, Ursary. I think I'm butchering that name. I'll have that right by the time he's drafted into the NFL. He's an offensive lineman from Minnesota. He also had a very good day. There's a defensive tackle named Peebles from Virginia Tech who had a good day. Those were some of the favorites of the people that I was with. The quarterbacks did not have a particularly great first day. It's kind of a weird year for quarterbacks, and I think Jets fans might be a little bit interested in kind of tracking that position maybe.
Definitely, yeah. That's for sure.
It's a weird year at quarterback. You're always going to find more quarterback needy teams than there are quarterbacks that are available, either from the draft or free agency. Unfortunately, it's, I think, in my opinion, kind of a bummer of a year to need a quarterback because last year's class was so good, and this year's class, I think, some of the best quarterbacks maybe slot in toward the end of the names that we know from last year's class. So I think you're going to find teams at the top that have to ask themselves whether or not that's the smartest way for them to use that high pick, Yeah. And so, but Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward are not here at the Senior Bowl this year. So Sanders went to the Shrine Bowl, but is not participating there. And so the quarterbacks that we have here are somewhat plentiful of like the next group: Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Riley Leonard, Dylan Gabriel from Oregon is also here. Not a great day yesterday in the sense that several of those names were in the second practice and there were a lot of balls on the ground. It's hard to know with quarterbacks when you're in an environment like this where you're pretty much meeting your wide receivers like the day before.
Right. Whose fault is that? Right. Yes.
Kind of, right. And also that'll be an interesting thing to track today. Are they able to get that worked out pretty quickly and get on the same page? So much of that kind of stuff can have to do with chemistry or timing. And so will that get appreciably better by the end of the week? That might be something that would show scouts something positive about this group, but it was kind of hard to evaluate, frankly, in a lot of ways, just because it was kind of off, I think, for a majority of them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I've got another person sending in a question here. This is Ricky New York live here on the show, which we appreciate. Let's throw another one of these.
Wow.
Now, I still haven't figured this out. Now, Ricky's called in the show before, so he lives in Florida, but he's Ricky New York Live. So I'm not sure if that's a Saturday Night Live reference. I'm confused. Anywho, he is a Florida State super fan, so I knew that he was going to try to get some Florida State specific questions in here. Have you seen yet? Again, it's very early in the week, and I'm going to butcher this one, so we'll both be in this together. Azariah Thomas, the Florida State defensive back. Have you seen anything from him standing out very early here in Senior Bowl week?
Florida State defensive back. Hold on. So here's the full disclosure.
Sure.
I'm looking for I'm sorry. I'm looking for numbers because at this stage of the game with my roster
early in the week.
Yeah, I don't have a note about him, which means very, very little, honestly, because there's been one
Okay.
practice. And
Mhm.
I think the thing that's so interesting about these practices for me is
Yes.
that there's so much going on,
Yeah.
and there are so like everyone on the field is somebody that you ultimately do want to have some evaluation of. And so
Mhm.
for somebody like me that doesn't track these players all throughout the year,
Yes.
I'm not a big college football person, right? So I'm not
Mhm.
somebody who's going to come here and have like really strong, like, oh, his hands and his, like
Okay.
I'm not that football
Mhm.
analyst.
Sure.
Um, so I'm catching up right now. And when you're in that
Mhm.
type of a position, looking at a practice, it's like I have
Mhm.
like ADD to the max, right? You're like,
Yeah.
oh, look at the wide receiver that just made this catch over here, climb the ladder. That was awesome. Oh, shiny toy over here. Why are they cheering over there? And then at the end, you're like, what did I actually see? So I spend the next hour, talking to everybody else, kind of trying to figure out what we all saw collectively. Um,
Mhm.
it's I think it's tough. The teams that I have talked to about this say that, I mean, because they're obviously watching tape throughout the
Of
whole season.
course.
They know who these
Right.
people are, and they're coming with specific questions in some ways, but they're also going to get the tape sent to them. So a
Mhm.
lot of the
Right.
scouts and people like that on the sideline, I have been told, are looking for like some of the intangible things, like how
Mhm.
they respond to coaching. And that is one thing down here that happens quite a bit. Like if you're an offensive tackle and you might take snaps at center, or like
Yeah. Right.
Harold Cannon is a tight end who I talked to yesterday, who took snaps at fullback yesterday in practice. Told me he hadn't done that since high school. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things that you're seeing down here that are people kind of getting put in different positions outside their comfort zone. And I would imagine that there's a lot of things that you could take from that that are intangible. Obviously, there's some tangible stuff, like can he actually play that? But if it's the first time they've done that since high school, that might not be the best way to gauge that. But how
Mhm.
quickly they can kind of pivot and what their attitude is about doing that. Whether you give them a coaching note, how quickly are they able to implement it? So I've been told that a lot of the things that people are looking for are some of those intangibles, because they can get the tape and go back and really break that down when they get home. And so they're looking for more of those interactions with teammates, stuff like that. So that's the stuff that we don't actually see in the stands, right? Is if they
Right.
give them a note, and whether they still didn't look very good, but they looked a little bit better, or were they able to sort of do the thing specifically that the coach asked them to change? Were they able to do that right away? So this is an interesting week, I think, in that regard, because they're you want to be able to do that, but you also want to look like you're doing it at a high level because you're going up against such high end competition. There's just so many different moving parts here that I think are fascinating.
You mentioned the tape. This is a cool, and I love what Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Reese's Senior Bowl, has done for many years, and always coming up with new twists. You mentioned like the teams get the tape. A new thing I heard Jim Nagy announce right before the Senior Bowl is that they did a lot of the raw interview stuff with all of these
Yes.
prospects and spoke with them for 10 or 15 minutes and gotten like, what's your story? What's your background? Where are you born? What are you doing? All these things, and those are available for NFL teams at a special link to watch all of those and see that information. Because the NFL teams, for those who don't know, only get 15 minutes per prospect. Now, there's certain prospects you could spend more time with. There's all kinds of additional rules, but with the 15 minutes for the majority of them, you don't want to waste a lot of the time, waste for lack of a better word, a lot of the time answering those kind of things that you would like to know. So the Senior Bowl has an extra benefit this year, asked all those in advance to give to the NFL teams so they could spend the 15 minutes getting down to the brass tacks, the meat and potatoes. What are some of the things and questions they have for these prospects? So a big salute to Jim Nagy. You were just talking about the tape being sent out, certainly for the practices and all of that. But in addition, this will be a new twist this year as well.
Yeah, and I that's a really good point that you make there, because it's almost like become a full service, scouting service here that's being
Right.
provided in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. And so, yeah, I'm sure that that's very, very helpful. I also know that there are some teams that don't come to Senior Bowl, that don't go to like the Rams. We were talking a lot about them
Yes.
last night. Just Because at this time of year, you're talking about different ways that front offices sort of approach this season. I think that the Rams are a team that has been so interesting to me in the last, I don't know, 5 years, because they have, in some obvious ways, clearly been willing to take a step back and say, all right, we've always done this. Should we continue to do this? Or like, is this this is helpful? Is this productive? Is this best practice? Or should we evaluate it and not just do things because we've always done them? And so I think that that's that's the underlying theme into how they've been able to have such success restocking like their defense, so quickly, for instance. But I know that some of the higher end guys in the Rams, the scouts are here, but some of the general manager, Les Snead and Sean McVay, they are not here. And I think that they're able to not be here because some of those things are being provided to them. Right. And then
I guess that's true. Yes.
My guess is that they'll have a chance to meet with those guys later, but they have a chance still to get the tape, and they have a chance still to get some of those tapes of the interviews that kind of introduce them to the players. And then maybe they can narrow down their list and talk to the people that they think that they're actually interested in. But it's interesting on a week like this, Combine, also to see how the various teams approach it and how they do it differently.
Well, you bring that up, the previous regime, which is no longer here, of Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas, they seem to treat the Senior Bowl in a very similar way. And I will just be honest, Lindsay, that rubbed a lot of Jet fans the wrong way, like they were above or too good for it. But I think that's the key, right? The Rams win the Super Bowl. Oh, whatever they did, I guess that works. The Jets suck. Oh, geez. Yeah, look, when they skip an event, it looks differently than the Rams, because the Rams have Sean McVay and they're foresight. They're seeing everything else. So if they're skipping, it's because they're better utilizing their time. When the Jets are being terrible, they're obviously not better utilizing their time. So that sort of fun fact that you brought up that rubbed a lot of Jet fans the wrong way. Now, it's obvious why this current regime isn't there. They're working on their coaching staff. The hirings just happened in introductory press conferences earlier this week. But yeah, that's a tender subject here for Jet fans, Lindsay Rhodes.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. You're right. I mean, different approaches are obviously going to be more popular if there's some evidence that they work. And in the Rams case, certainly they've been able to kind of hit on their draft picks. And so it's harder to question that process. But I think you're right. But I think just as a matter of principle, I think the Rams are a good example, for Jets fans who want to look at that maybe it's not the actual that part of the process that is the problem. Right. But clearly something still fell through the cracks. Although I will say that the Jets, and I know, your audience knows this more than anybody. I feel like it's the specific positions that haven't hit, because I mean, I look at 50,000 foot view when I think of the Jets and the drafting. Like, I think that a lot of these picks have been pretty money. The fact that you've been able to walk away with you've got Brees and you've got Sauce and you've got Garrett Wilson in recent drafts. And you need more than that. Obviously, you need to hit on the free agent picks. You have to hit on quarterback, or else nothing really comes together, honestly. And I am sort of the mind, and I'm on record as saying this, that I think that maybe it is time to get a different quarterback in New York.
Oh, are you?
Do you? I would love to hear your thoughts about this, because I think
it's divisive. You're in Jets land.
I know. And why did I walk into this on purpose? You didn't even ask me. What kind of moron does this? The advanced metrics suggest that he is no longer operating at the level that he did. And very, very consistently. He did finish the season strong. And so I know a lot of us, operate with whatever that last impression is. You take that into the off season, good in his case, or bad in the case of like a Sam Darnold, right? So it'll be interesting to see how much that influences things. But I think also when you are the type of very, very, very big personality that the Jets quarterback is, I think you have to be quite clearly somebody that's bringing things to the table that tilt the team positively. And I think if you take all of the rest of the stuff out here and you just look at what he did this year, it doesn't look like that. I don't think it tells that story for me personally. Like, again, I'm looking at advanced metrics on a regular basis all year long, and he was more in the range of some quarterbacks that you don't want to be in the range of. And so I think that's it's a tough position that they're in, though, because of what we talked about with the quarterback and the musical chairs in the offseason. Because, like, how do you move on from that if you don't have a clear cut better option,
Right.
And so I think that's
Yeah.
really the toughest position that the Jets find themselves in this offseason.
Very much so. And to your point, there's advanced analytics that suggest, to your point, and not just suggest as being very kind, but that say, yikes, Aaron Rodgers was not great in a variety of metrics. Then a lot of Jet fans see the raw numbers, and because this is sort of an indictment on the Jets quarterback history, is that, whoa, Aaron Rodgers just had one of the best seasons in Jets quarterback history. Is that saying, hey, Aaron, you still got it, slap on the 41-year-old cheeks? Or is it saying, oh, the Jets quarterback history has not been great, so the fact that he had this great season, even though it may not have been so great, may be saying something entirely different? I'll be curious to see, because Aaron Glenn, a lot of Jet fans know around here, being the former first-round draft choice back in 1994, spending 8 of his 15 years here, an additional 2 years in scouting. So Jet fans know him very well, but it'll be interesting to see this older version of Aaron Glenn. Can he coexist with an Aaron Rodgers? Because he's trying to establish his own culture, and Aaron Rodgers is his own orbit of culture. He's Aaron Rodgers. So there's there's a lot too when you have someone of that star quality. Maybe people at Sumer Sports, though, because you're Lindsay Rhodes. So I imagine there's like a Lindsay Rhodes, Aaron Rodgers like orbit. Like everyone's like, whoa, that's Lindsay Rhodes over there. So you can't just assume this sort of thing.
Nobody feels that way. You brought up a good point, and I think this is a good opportunity to have this conversation about the box score stats, because when you look at things like passing yards, you have to also look at passing attempts. And so if you have a ton of passing yards and you say, oh, he's the passing leader, like sometimes that tells a very bad story, right? Because what it means is that you're not doing the things that you need to do to stay ahead of the sticks, to put points on the board, to put yourself in a position where you have a positive game script and you don't have to throw the ball. If you're throwing the ball that much, more often than not, what it means is that your team is down, right? That's just a basic thing that sometimes people don't connect those two dots. You understand that as a general premise, what the script is. And so if you're throwing, that it probably means that you're trailing, and that's not necessarily a positive statement about the offense or defense. But then they look at those numbers and say, oh my gosh, look at how good he was. Look at this raw number here of yards that we were able to accumulate. So if you go and you break down the yards per attempt, then where does that take us? And then, like you said, I work in some advanced numbers. And so like expected points added is a number that you can look at for quarterbacks. He, in that category on the season, ranked 22nd in the league. And after Joe Flacco, right? And nobody's trying to, this is just qualified passers. But you're looking at some of the names that are in his territory. Russell Wilson ended up with the same EPA per dropback as Aaron Rodgers did this year. We're having conversations about Russell Wilson and whether or not that is the answer in Pittsburgh. Also, he doesn't have the same cachet that Aaron Rodgers does, but he's obviously still a name that's kind of more in that tier. Also in this same space, you've got Mac Jones. And then you have CJ Stroud, who just had a terrible season, but I think is also in a very different conversation, right? Because you're looking at a young quarterback, but maybe that is the fact that he's even there. You could maybe even use that as evidence for Aaron Rodgers, because nobody thinks that CJ Stroud is just going to be a terrible quarterback for the rest of his career. They're able to look at the offensive line and the pressure that he was under, and then Slowick was fired. And so we're going to move on in a different direction. And it's still so early that there's optimism that what we saw in year one is what we're more likely to see. Where Aaron Rodgers is concerned is last year in Green Bay was more similar to this. And I think we wrote off that last year in Green Bay because, there were some young wide receivers and, it was so anomalous for his career that you're willing to say, well, maybe he'll go back to being the guy. It's probably more likely. I wondered at the time if that was true, because some of these numbers pointed to him and not just the environment around him. And now the fact that we've seen another year of these types of numbers is why I feel somewhat strongly that it might not get fixed in his in his own personal way. But I mean, I hope that I'm wrong. We would all love to see more Aaron Rodgers of old, right? Like,
good for business.
yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Again, we're speaking with Lindsay Rhodes, formerly of the NFL Network here. By the way, Lindsay, where are you keeping all those Emmys? Where do you keep those in the old house?
They are in boxes.
Oh,
My
I was
garage.
about to say, I didn't know if you had like Lindsay Rhodes
I know.
people and they like bring them with you
Toilet
for on
and
camera,
why you
kind of
here.
hold them up.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, I don't even know where they are.
That's all right. You've done a lot of amazing things, Lindsay Rhodes. So it's great to have you again, co-host of the Sumer Sports Show with so many wonderful guests like Thomas Dimitrioff, Sam Bruckhouse, and so many others. Thomas, of course, interviewing one of the many names that interviewed for the New York Jets general manager position as well. Getting a couple other things in here with you, Lindsay, before we get you out of here now. We have another question coming in here. Mother effing Chew asked, member for 8 months. Appreciate that. Is Jackson Dart this year's quarterback riser? And quite frankly, I'll even expand the question. You've mentioned the top two quarterbacks everyone says is Cam Ward of Miami and Shadur Sanders of Colorado. And then there's everybody else. Who is, if it's not Jackson Dart, who is the QB3 that might surprise rise? You mentioned the supply and demand of quarterbacks here in the league that even though maybe these two quarterbacks wouldn't be top 5 picks if it wasn't for this year's class not being so great. So I'm curious, who is that QB3 that you think could rise? Whether it's Jackson Dart, Dylan Gabriel, Kyle McCord, get some Syracuse love in there, or who is it out there in the universe?
So this is the question, right? And I don't know that I have a really good answer because I think if you talk to 10 different people here, I think you would get, maybe 3 or 4 different answers pretty consistently. I think that this becomes an answer that has more to do with the teams and what they're looking for and what types of quarterbacks they would like to have to run their offenses. Various teams are a little bit more comfortable. Some are going to want somebody that is particularly mobile, for instance. Some are going to want, they're going to prioritize different things, I guess what I'm saying. Kyle McCord is another name to maybe throw in. I don't know if it's in this conversation, but just a name to keep an eye on because from the my colleagues who went to Shrine Bowl, they ended up walking away pretty impressed with Kyle McCord. And after yesterday, they reiterated that they thought that he looked like the best of the group of guys that we've seen on a practice field in the last week and a half.
There we go.
And
Beautiful.
so
I'm operating. I work here in Syracuse, baby. So we saw a lot of Kyle McCord around here. These parts. He's he's a god around here.
Yeah. Well, maybe he will be a god in the NFL for some franchise shortly. Dylan Gabriel is a guy who doesn't take snaps under center, and they had him doing that yesterday. And so, again, speaking to the things that you need to improve on, right? But also speaking to the reasons that the practices weren't productive. Like, it didn't go well for him taking snaps under center. It was clear that that wasn't something that he had experience doing. I think that in a lot of ways, it's productive to give somebody reps. I mean, Jared Goff famously had not done that, right, prior to going to the Rams. And so sometimes you ask your quarterback to make that transition, and we're just going to work through it. But honestly, I think that it's more likely that he goes to a team that is just okay with him being in the gun, There are quarterbacks all over the league that are more comfortable. I mean, Joe Burrow comes to mind as somebody who very specifically prefer it one way as opposed to the other. And but I do think that the tier of quarterbacks that we're talking about here are maybe not the type of tier that tilt the scale. So they just have to be plugged in to a team that is okay and is already running that type of offense that I think that they would be best suited for. I don't think that any of these teams are going to change their offense for the crop of quarterbacks that we're talking about as like the QB3 or below.
Last question here from the fans. So we have June, the GM. Question for the young lady here on the show. Can Jackson Dart seriously be considered as a late first or second round draft selection? Do you think he has potential? I heard yesterday, I have some Jets media buddies who were down there and they asked him about New York. He's like, I'm not afraid of the big market. I'm like, oh, okay, Jackson Dart, a little chutzpah, a little swag. That's all important for the young man. What can you tell us? What have you seen early from Jackson Dart?
Well, I'll tell you what I saw, which I thought, I mean, this is not a football related note. Looking
Okay.
at him, he reminded me a little bit of Zach Wilson
Oh God.
physically.
Jeez.
Like, so for
Sure.
face
Sure.
trading, then take that for what it's worth. Yeah, I think it's still too early. I think it's
Okay.
too early to answer these questions. And to the point about can he be considered as a late first or second round selection, I think absolutely there will be teams that are hoping at this stage of the draft process that that he might be an option there. Because if you think of him as being the answer to the who is he the third best quarterback in this draft, then I think you're probably looking at maybe somebody taking him in the late first just to get that fifth year.
100%. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's the question this year is whether or not people are going to take these quarterbacks too high, or
Yeah.
the teams that take some of these quarterbacks very high, even Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders, who are I think not on par with the top quarterbacks in last year's class. If
Definitely
they
not.
go
Yeah.
in the top three, and Shedeur Sanders was reportedly asked by the top three teams not to practice. So that would seem to be a clue that they are very interested in taking him, that he might not make it
Apparently.
past the top three. And I don't know if I'm looking at him, if I'm like 100% he's going to hit. That's an absolute like win, chalk it up. I mean, you never really feel
Of
that way in
course.
the draft, but for some people more than others. And so I think that there's even risk attached to that that's driven by need. I think in a perfect world, obviously you want to be in a position that some of the teams who are drafting that are still playing, that are going to be drafting at the end of the first round, like the Eagles. I think one of the things they built a strong roster top to bottom, and then they
Sure.
operate from a position of strength every year in the draft because they don't have these glaring holes, and so they're not desperate. And so I think when you have teams, I heard somebody say recently, like, despite picking late in the first round every year, they're having success. I'm like, no. It's because they're picking in the late first round, because you now have the luxury of saying this other team has jumped this guy to the top of the list out of need. And so we can just sit here and watch the best players fall to us. And there's going to be somebody that's going to fall to these teams in the late first that they're going to be able to jump on and just plug in because they don't have to chase a position group. And so they can just say, I literally think that the Eagles are the best example of this because they can just wait, and they do with Jalen Carter a few years ago when he felt they were like, we can do that. Yes.
Quinyon Mitchell. I mean, last year, how did he fall to them? Unbelievable.
Cooper DeJean to do both of those back to back, same position. They can
Come on,
afford to do that because
Yeah.
they weren't like desperate, so they can go, he's the best and he's the best. And is that a normal thing to do, to take the same position group in the draft, like in that manner? Not necessarily, but they could afford to do it. So that's the goal for all of these teams, is to build a roster where you're not operated by desperation at this time of year. But there are only a few that can say that they do that.
Another fan question coming in here. Has Jalen Milroe fallen off the face of the planet? Yeah, I haven't heard a lot. Again, it's early in Senior Bowl week, but, I haven't been hearing the same chutzpah. Maybe to your point with some of the quarterback struggles early here, but I've not heard a lot about Jalen Milroe, who was supposed to be, prior to the year, he was going to be a first-round pick, and obviously this year did not go the way he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's in that conversation that we talked about. And the rest of the week will be very, very interesting, I think, with regards to the quarterbacks for the reasons that we talked about earlier. But also, people are looking for somebody to rise to the top in that conversation.
Of course.
You're going to be looking for somebody. If somebody has a good practice day today, you're going to hear a lot about it because it's going to be such a stark contrast to what we saw yesterday. And people are desperately looking for someone to rise. So I think in the sense that it's probably good for all of these guys that no one else had that day yesterday. So
that's a good point.
We're all kind of in the same boat going into today, and it's anybody's ball game. And obviously there's still months left, and this is going to, how this cycle goes, right? Somebody's going to rise, have a good day. And then if they continue to have, stack good days, they could rise dramatically. That's how it is this time of year. Names come out of nowhere, seemingly.
Lindsay, before we get you out of here, Sumer Sports. Come on. We talked about it at the beginning, but let's get a nice Sumer Sports sandwich here. We started with it. Let's end with it. It's a balanced breakfast, a variety in the diet, all very important. Mas importante. So, Sumer Sports, you're the co-host. You got a wonderful bevy of other talent that joins you on the show. If someone has never watched you on Sumer Sports, what are they getting? What's the flavor that you're trying to deliver for people that are consuming that product?
I think if you are interested in, if you are a really hardcore NFL fan that is interested in listening to conversations that are not the conversations that are happening on your televisions usually, then this is probably the place for you because we're looking for evidence that isn't as obvious. We're not only going to talk about quarterbacks, which really drives a lot of the TV product because they're trying to reach the broadest possible audience at all times. And so oftentimes what that means is that you're playing the hits over and over and over again and talking about teams like the Cowboys, who may or may not continue to be relevant from a football standpoint, but are always in the news cycle. So if you're looking for a way to get maybe away from that type of a conversation and have something that's a little bit more detailed and in the weeds of it and is looking for empirical evidence that people are good or bad or what the issues are or why teams are good. If that interests you, then can I point you to the Sumer Sports Show? And by the way, Sumer Sports has a whole bevy of podcasts. We've got a new draft podcast that Sam Bruckhouse is doing called Draft FM, where they will be doing episodes just focusing on the draft. Sumer Sports Show will focus on kind of all of the offseason issues and also the Super Bowl. And then there's Stats and Scheme, which is a really kind of in the weeds, like what are the statistical things that we need to pay attention to this week? And then schematically, what did we learn from the games? That kind of stuff.
Wow, beautiful. What again? I mentioned variety of the diet. Good Lord have mercy. I mean, there's a lot going on there, which we love, and you can follow her on Twitter, X, whatever the hell they're calling it these days.
Right.
Lindsay_Rhodes. I've been seeing all the Senior Bowl updates. You're giving us everything. Your eyes to the social media apps. We're loving all of it. So, Lindsay, thank you so much for carving out the time difference, and everything else. I can see it. Everyone is loving you here in the comments section. So, thank you so much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Have a good rest of the day.
All right. Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Take care.